Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna De Ninis, and this is Truth Talk for May 12th, 2026. The topic for today is spiritual gifts. So today I went to a seminar or an event, and I went to see if I can get pointers on how to market or grow my channel for the Reach Integrative Healthcare cause. And so I didn't know what the event would be like. It was at the Hilton by the airport, and I um, signed up for VIP access because I'm like, let me get the most benefit out of this event so I can get the most learning, right? What I did not know is that I was going to, well, let me back up. So on Friday, today's Tuesday, on Friday, I had a Reiki session, which is a form of energy healing. And during the session, laying down on a table, my eyes are closed. And as the healer or the practitioner is, I can feel the heat from her hands and the energy to heal the healing powers, I guess we'll call them. Um, my eyes are closed, and all of a sudden what popped into my head was a vision of like a 15, 16-year-old boy smiling. And I could see this child clear as day. I could probably draw a picture like today. And I immediately said to the practitioner, because sometimes when you're in someone else's energy, I suppose you could pick up on their loved ones. And so she had seen my mom and my grandma. She said two women. And I said, I assumed that would be my mom and grandma who were watching over me. And I had said to her, um, I'm seeing this boy. I don't know who this boy is. I've never met him. And I said, could it be your son? And of course, we're in the middle of the session. She goes, hmm. And at the end of the session, she said, how old was the boy? And I said, 15, 16. And she goes, I wonder. She goes, I did miscarry, but he, the child would have been about 19. So clearly, I didn't think that that was who I saw. But nonetheless, I didn't know who I saw. I never met the person, didn't know who they were. And I've had premonitions like this before where what I've seen in a dream or envisioned I end up who I've never met, I end up meeting later on, maybe 3 months or 3 weeks later or what have you. So I walked away going, well, whoever this person is, I guess I'm supposed to meet them, but I don't know how or when or why, right? So I go to this event today, and there was a slideshow intro to the speaker, and he was kind of explaining his background as a child and whatnot. And so one of the pictures was him, must have been about 15, 16 years old, smiling. And it was exactly who I envisioned in my Reiki session. So of course you can imagine, I was like, wow, I still get, it's still shocking because, I don't quite understand how that works, right? I mean, I truly do believe that it could have something to do with, alternate reality, parallel universe, the fact that time is not linear. I mean, there has to be an explanation of how, psychics can predict the future. And like I said, how I can see these visions, even though I never met these people, at least not in this lifetime, right? But yet I end up meeting them later on. So of course, I'm a little baffled, can't figure it out. And so then I go into the mode of, okay, so why did I meet this person? There must be a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to be in this seminar. Maybe I'm supposed to learn from it, or maybe I'm supposed to learn that it's not for me. I don't know. And what I did discover though is that even though it was a great seminar, a lot of good information, I was not really aligned with what the speaker was saying. Speaker's coming from a place of who's very successful, by the way. I don't know his net worth, but exactly, but it sounds like he's, you know, doing very well for himself, which, ideally you would think if I want to grow my channel, that's what I want to do too. But um, I'm all about matching energy and being aligned. And I have to say, I didn't exactly feel aligned with this speaker. just feel like we're in completely two different places. And so I don't really know what the reason was for me to see this. All I just know is I saw the vision. So maybe this is just telling me, I'm on the right track, keep going. I mean, that's how it was for me in the past. Like I said, I've had a couple of other premonitions. Um, I both times the prior premonitions, I I guess I didn't really stay in that environment. So I guess it could be the same thing because I ended up leaving early. Like I said, the speaker and we weren't exactly aligned with what I believe would be my future path. But it's okay. I mean, like I said, it's interesting. It's like as if my future self dropped me a little note or a little hint and said, "Hey, this is who you're going to meet. You're on the right track," or something like that. I don't know. But but what happened at the event when we broke out for lunch, I actually met this woman who, it's funny who you meet. She was from where I'm from, New York. And it started as just a very casual, hey, hi, whatever. And then as we get talking, find out we come from not just New York, we're from Long Island and literally two towns pretty close to each other. She shared with me that she had lost her son, which is so horrible. Um, and but what really moved me, what I guess moved me or is that, I was comforting her and I was just being me, which sometimes I think my energy triggers people, but in this moment, I was comforting her and she felt that she could open up. Like she felt that um she started crying and and she said that she doesn't normally do that. That's been 6 or 7 years and she was opening up in a way and I was comforting her and pretty much she felt she was to blame for her son's death, which was definitely not the case. And I kept reassuring her. And at the end of the conversation, I was just being me. I really, heartfelt and um, empathically feeling her pain, right? And just kind of, you know, being in that same place, just kind of feeling what she's feeling. And what she said to me was, wow, she goes, you're good at what you do. You know, I I feel like you've helped me. You've helped me. And well, that's great because I think what happened is this poor mom was carrying this guilt, thinking it was her fault, and I kept reassuring her, this isn't your fault. Your son, first of all, he's in a good place, but he made his choices, and unfortunately, it was something he consumed. I think she said it was marijuana that was laced with fentanyl, right, which turned out to be deadly. So I don't know much about this, but I've heard of fentanyl and I know how dangerous it is. So um, a horrible, horrible thing to happen to your son. I can't even imagine what that must be like. And but again, just reassured her, he's in a good place. She's not to blame. It's not her fault. We all have choices to make, and her son had made those choices, and it just, moved me that she felt so. Uh, it benefited her, that she felt comforted and she felt that I made a positive impact for her. So I guess that's why I was there at the event. I ended up showing I was supposed to be in another breakout session at 12:30 and I obviously went over because I didn't go there until 12:45 because I was trying to comfort this woman and for good reason. So, but perhaps that's why I attended the session. I don't know. But it's interesting. Like I said, another gentleman at the seminar or the event, he was sharing how he had a near-death experience. So, there's just this wave of spirituality and these spiritual gifts that come with it. It just feels like things are opening up. The world is changing. We're what we our 3D realm, which is all about material items and you know, whatever have you, the the amount of money that you can, you know, possessions that you can have, you know, monetary in your bank and you know, that whole 3D, you know, I don't want to say love of money. Okay. Um, I feel like that's changing, you know, that the world is shifting and that now we're focusing on something deeper, you know. Um, AI came up in conversation today. Took up a good portion of the seminar or the event. And I you know, I don't know how I feel about AI. I think it's a great tool. I just don't think it should replace a human being. You know, I do have concerns about it taking over all the jobs, you know, and what are people going to do, right? Okay, great. We got these great tools in AI and we don't need to hire employees. Okay, but how are these employees going to, you know, find work to feed their families? You know, these are the things that I think of. We talk about, you know, the golden rule and making good choices and good decisions and the long lasting impact of those decisions. And I can't help but think of what's our world going to be like in 5 to 10 years when AI becomes so prevalent that, you know, we don't need people to do jobs, to do certain jobs. You know, how are they going to live? How are they going to eat? You know, I'm not quite understanding that piece of it. So, um, but nonetheless, there's a spiritual awakening I believe is happening, and with that is we're seeing more and more gifts. You know, I think there's downloads of people having more abilities, and myself, I think, being one of them. So it'll be interesting to see how things pan out and how life turns out in the next 5, 10 years. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say. I'm on my journey and I'm learning and I'm aligning with the right people and also being aware of who I'm not aligned with. And you know what? That's okay. You know, it's okay because there there is going to be that difference, that separation. You know, or like you know, people talk about the new earth and the old earth. You know, maybe that's it. The old earth is the 3 dimensional and the new earth is the 5 dimensional. Clearly there's going to be a separation. And I think that's kind of how we're headed. We're all going to live in the same realm, but we're going to be in different, you know, dimensions, so to speak. And really how where you are spiritually and how you've evolved, I think is going to matter, you know, and your life's going to look differently. You know, what we think may be our purpose may not be our purpose, or maybe we'll have a awakening on what our purpose is. Maybe our passion for X amount of years was one thing, but then we realize, you know what, this is not satisfying. I'm not really happy. I need to shift gears into something else, and that's my true passion and purpose, you know. Um, that's what I believe. I believe that there's going to be some type of awakening with more spiritual gifts becoming, you know, coming to the forefront. They said there's a gentleman that had a near-death experience. I would love to know more about what that was. I didn't get a chance. I ended up leaving early, but you know what? There's a lot of us out there that have these spiritual gifts or these spiritual experiences, and it seems like it's happening more and more. It's like the earth is kind of Mother Gaia is opening the door, and for all these, you know, spiritual beings and all these spiritual gifts to become raining down, hopefully for a new and better earth, a new and better world. At least that's all we can hope for, right? So, all right, everyone, I'm going to call it a night. And thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.